Hey everyone, I'm Golden Sound, you're watching the Headphone Show by headphones.com, and I've got something quite exciting here with me at the moment. Feliks released the Envy a few years ago, and it's quite rightly gotten a lot of love. And with Feliks celebrating their 25th anniversary this year, they've done something quite special. This is the Feliks Envy 25th Anniversary Edition. A limited run of 25 units, souped up version of the Envy, which if you're coming to CanJam New York, we'll have on demo at the headphones.com booth. This unit is only here for a couple of days, so this is more of an impressions video than a full review, but those impressions are very, very positive. Now this is going to cost $17,500. It is absolutely a statement piece, and a lot of that is of course going to be paying for the exclusivity of a 1 of 25 unit, but besides that, there are a number of notable upgrades. The unit has a black piano finish chassis, fully handmade in cooperation with a world-class piano refurbishment specialist in Poland. And the other quite visually distinct difference from the standard Envy are the tubes, with this limited edition model sporting Feliks branded Elrog ER300B power tubes, and carefully selected PS Vane CV181 driver tubes, where only the ones with the lowest noise were chosen. The output transformers have been upgraded, amorphous core transformers with extended frequency response compared to the original, and a new custom toroidal power transformer which Feliks says has been chosen for silent operation and resistance to interference. Internal wiring and capacitors have been upgraded, and the preamplifier module has been retuned. Essentially, this is an Envy, but with just about every key component taken up a few levels. So how does it sound? Well, pretty fantastic. Firstly, I've had absolutely no trouble driving just about anything on this, with the amp being able to drive difficult headphones like the Modhouse Tungsten and Headphone at my listening levels with no problem, and it seems like the work that Feliks has done on tweaking the design and selecting components to provide as much resistance to interference and as low noise as possible has worked, since this amplifier has a signal-to-noise ratio relative to 4 volts of over 100 decibels. This is an incredibly low noise tube amplifier. That's about 8 dB lower than what I measured on the hybrid Riviera AIC-10 for instance, and in fact it matches even some high performance solid state amplifiers like the Enlium 23R. In comparison to the original Envy, there's a few changes in subjective sound which were fairly obvious, the first of which being that this is a noticeably more resolving, detailed sounding amplifier, and the original Envy was already a very detailed amp. The level of resolution on this has just been taken up a step, whilst also this is a more what I'd call tubey sound. This is warmer, this is richer than the original Envy, and the overall presentation I found to be much more pleasant. I don't know how much of this is simply the tubes, since the Elrog 300Bs in particular are actually quite a different design, but the end result is that this has a sound that I found to be both more subjectively pleasing and also more technically capable. It's of course a bit hard to judge value. This is a price point where you are to some degree paying for prestige and exclusivity. They are only making 25 of these. But whilst it's not 3 times better than a standard Envy, it is better, and in fact, it actually ended up beating what until this moment was my personal favourite headphone tube amp, the Woo Wah-23. The tuning of the Envy Anniversary Edition sounded closer to the Wah-23 than the standard Envy, surprisingly enough, but the technicalities were again a step up. The biggest advantage that this had over the Wah-23 was a more expansive and holographic sense of staging. This can throw things at quite incredible distances whilst layering and separating things with just nothing but air in between, likely helped a lot by that ultra black background that this has. This is a little less of an intense sound than the original Envy, a little bit more relaxed in presentation overall, but still able to deliver plenty of kick when asked, even with very difficult to drive headphones like the Modhouse Tungsten and the Headphone. And all of that again whilst having better detail retrieval and a blacker sounding background. It just kind of sounded like this wasn't even having to try very hard to deliver. I don't want to say that this is more realistic necessarily, because both this and the standard Envy and tube amps effectively inherently are imparting some coloration into your music. That's kind of the point. But the point is that how these are changing things is very enjoyable, and it pulls you into things in a very immersive sounding way. One other thing that'll benefit users that are using this for more sensitive headphones, or IEMs maybe, as well as just how quiet this is the channel matching. This wasn't mentioned as a feature explicitly, but when I was testing it, even at extremely low levels, 10 millivolts output where you're only going to be driving the most sensitive of IEMs, the channel matching was within 0.1 dB. That could literally just be luck of the draw, but that is the best channel matching I have ever seen on any device using a potentiometer for volume control. So that effectively means that even if you're using incredibly sensitive IEMs, you're going to have perfect channel matching right up until the point that the amp just stops outputting sound. Since the preamp module has also been retuned, I did try this as a preamplifier in my speaker setup, and the result there was absolutely fantastic. Adding a richness and holographic coloration that, particularly for tracks that were mastered well and can show off separation clearly, was a very cool experience. I don't have any dedicated tube preamps to compare to, so I'm not going to talk too much about that, other than to say that whilst listening, I had a pretty permanent smile on my face. This is a product where Feliks went all out, not just picking the best components, but carefully selecting only the units that actually perform the best, and the result is pretty evident. This is not an Envy in a different color. This is genuinely taking things higher to get that final few percent, and the levels of refinement that someone spending this much on an amplifier is going to be looking for. As far as tube-based headphone amplifiers go, I'm confident in saying I have not heard one that is as good as this yet. I don't know what happens once you start spending loads of money on tube rolling other amps. There's of course infinite possibilities there, but in terms of what I've been able to spend time with and evaluate in stock configurations, this truly does stand out. If you are the kind of person that wants the best of the best and doesn't mind what it costs, then you owe it to yourself to give this a listen. So to Feliks Audio, firstly I've just got to say well done, and secondly, happy 25th anniversary. For those of you guys watching that are coming to CanJam New York yourselves, make sure that you stop by the headphones.com booth to come and have a listen to this fantastic amplifier. If you've got any questions about this amp, any other gear, music, or anything else at all, come and say hey on our Discord server or the headphones.com forum, and I and other wiggly air enthusiasts will endeavor to help. I'm Golden Sound, you're watching The Headphone Show by headphones.com. I'll see you next time.